Hi everyone, this is Miss Griffin. So what I have here is today's lesson. So what I'd like you to do is go to Google Classroom, locate today's date, which is 1/11/22, the Gift of the Magi, day 5. And it's going to bring you to this page right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to review some of the activities you're going to do in class today since I won't be back until Friday. So I figured this might help you out a little bit. So today we're going to talk about dramatic irony. So over the past week, we've learned about two different types of irony. We learned about situational irony and we learned about verbal irony. The last type of irony we're going to learn about today is dramatic. So dramatic is different than situational and verbal, and you're going to see why. So let's take a look here. What is dramatic irony and how can we identify the difference between situational, verbal, and dramatic irony? All right, so just a reminder, today's assignment is graded. Anything you don't complete, please complete it for homework. Each day, your assignment's worth 10 points, and on Thursday, it will become a total score of 40 points. All right, so first thing I would like you to do is the do now. So it says, do you enjoy horror movies? Why or why not? And please write in complete sentences. Now at this time, what I'd like you to do is pause the video and write your response because I have to keep these videos short in order for them to upload. So at any time, if I'm going too fast for you, just pause and do what you need to do. All right, so after you do your do now, you're gonna go to the let's review section. So here we have a picture and then we have what is irony. All right, so let's take a look here. Irony, the blank of what is blank. So what can we fill in about irony? So the blank of what is blank. Well, let's see, I'll give you the hint. Let's see. So it's the opposite of what is blank. And I want to see if you could fill in the next blank. After you do that, I want you to write down the 3 different types of irony. Well, we learned about 2 this week, and we're learning about a new type today. Hint, hint, look at the following page. All right, I'm going to keep moving on. Again, at any time, please pause. So what is irony? Irony is about expectation. It's the opposite of what is expected. And there are 3 types of irony. There's verbal, when someone says something that's the opposite of what's expected. There's dramatic, which we'll go over today. And then there's situational. So situational is not when someone says something that's the opposite of what is expected. That's verbal. Situational is when you see something that is the opposite of what is expected. So if you take a look at these 2 signs right here, a stop and keep moving sign next to each other, you wouldn't expect these 2 because they contradict one another. On the next page, we have some more pictures of irony. We looked at some of these throughout the past week. Texting while driving kills. For more driving tips, text safety to 79191. Well, that makes absolutely no sense. And then last week we went over this one too. What makes this ironic? And take a look here. What makes this sign ironic? And lastly, take a look here. All right, so let's go over each type of irony before we learn about dramatic. So the first type of irony we talked about is situational, and we saw this in the Gift of the Magi. This is when what actually happens is the opposite of what is expected. So something about the situation is completely unexpected. So if we took a look at those pictures before, this explains situational irony. Okay, verbal irony you learned about yesterday. Verbal irony is when someone says something but they mean something else, right? So it's the opposite of what is expected when someone says something. So if I gave you a 10-page homework packet tonight and you said, awesome, another homework packet, well, that would be ironic because I know that we don't enjoy homework. Okay, so what I'd like you to do right here is you're going to read this let's practice, and then you're going to fill in next to it type of irony, why is this ironic? So at this point, what I'd like you to do is pause the video and complete this activity. All right, so after you do number 1, you're going to do the same exact thing for number 2. Read the example and then tell me what type of irony is it. So it's only going to be situational or verbal because we haven't learned about dramatic yet. So pause the video and write down your response. Okay, so let's talk about dramatic irony. So if you'd like, at this point, you're going to pause the video. In the assignment description, there is a link for dramatic irony video. I want you to watch that video, and I want you to write down 2 things you learned about dramatic irony. Okay, so let's talk about dramatic irony. So dramatic irony has a lot to do with plays and movies, and of course, books. Now, when we talk about dramatic irony, it's when we, the audience, know more than the characters in the story. So pretty much in easier terms, it just means the audience, which means you or the reader, knows what's going on, but the character thinks something completely different. So we really see this most often in horror movies. That's why I gave you that do now about horror movies, because in horror movies, you might see the murderer or monster or villain coming, but the characters in the movie have no idea. And you're sitting there in the movie theater going, no, turn around or run. And that is dramatic irony, okay? When you, the audience, knows more than the characters. So think about in a suspenseful movie, a character runs into a room to escape someone who is chasing him. Only the audience knows that the chaser is already in the room. So take a look at these examples. Here we have dramatic irony. This is from one of the Scream movies. This individual right here, she has no idea that this villain is behind her, but we, the audience, do. And then this couple on their honeymoon on an exotic beach look like they're having the time of their life. The wife seems like she's enjoying herself. Little does she know that her husband's being attacked by a giant octopus behind her. All right, so what I'd like you to do right now is pause the video, read these 3 examples, and then check off what type of irony it is. All right, so your exit pass, well, one of your exit passes for today is what is dramatic irony? And then number 2, you're going to have to tell me why this is an example of dramatic irony, okay? Now, if at any point you're confused, remember, dramatic irony is when we, the audience, know more about what's going on in a story, a movie, a play, or a book than the characters do. Now, what I'd like you to do after you complete your exit pass is you're going to go to quizzes and do a little irony review. Okay, so after you finished all these activities, you're going to watch The Gift of the Magi. So it's about 20 minutes long. It's definitely an older version. So I suggest that, you be patient with it. There are some elements to it that weren't in the story that we read, but you will see some similarities. Now, if you finish all this and you still have time before the end of the period, you can go on to instructional software for 20 minutes. All right, I miss you all, and I look forward to seeing you on